Now, here's the kicker. How do we know they weren't lying? It's a great question. When asking, how do we know someone wasn't lying about a story that they told? The important thing to ask is actually, what do they stand to gain? If they stand to gain, then it's reasonable that they could be lying. And so that's when you would want to really be skeptical. So, generally speaking, the things that one could gain that could constitute being worth lying is that they could gain money, they could gain power, they could gain notoriety, fame, they could gain sex, they could gain something. And what did they have to gain for lying in this case? Well, James was beheaded in 44 AD. Philip was crucified or hung, we're not sure, one or the other, in 54 AD. Andrew was crucified in 60 AD. Matthew was killed by a sword wound in 60 AD. James was thrown over 100 feet off the temple, then clubbed to death in 62 AD. Paul was beheaded in 64 AD. Peter was crucified in 68 AD. Mark was dragged by horses until dead in 68 AD. Bartholomew was flayed to death with a whip in 69 AD. Jude was killed with arrows in 72 AD. Thomas was stabbed with a spear in 72 AD. Simon was sawn in half in 74 AD. Matthias was stoned in 80 AD. Luke was hung in 84 AD. And John was boiled in oil, happened to live, and was sentenced to the prison island Patmos, where he died in 100 AD. Now, here's the kicker. All of these men were killed for the claim that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. So what did they have to gain from lying? Guaranteed martyrdom. Guaranteed being tortured to death, being killed for their claims. And other than that, harsh persecutions from both the Jewish religious authorities and the Roman authorities, harsh persecution, and then death. So how do we know they weren't lying? Quite simply, because they had nothing to gain from it. And so at a certain point, if they weren't telling the truth, what they believed, they would have started flip-flopping. But the fact that nobody did, under threat of death and persecution and being tortured, they all said, no, Jesus really rose from the dead. I really saw that. That's how we know they weren't lying.